So importantly, before you start the treatment, you need to cleanse the brows. Here we're using In Lee's Aloe Vera Foaming Lash and Brow Cleanser to give them a gentle exfoliate to make sure the skin and hair are clean, oil-free, and any debris or dead skin is cleared from the area. Once the eyebrow is clean and dry, we're going to start laminating. We're going to begin by applying step 1 of the Mayamy brow lamination system all over the hairs. We want to saturate them from the root right to the tip, and this is going to give us that really slick, beautiful, even lamination. We're using disposable brushes, and we use a different brush for step 1, step 2, and then for the tint. This is so we don't mess up the process along the way. So remember, step 1 is going to open the hair cuticle and allow us to manipulate the hairs. So once we've covered the eyebrow, we're going to pop a layer of cling film over it, set the timer for 2 minutes, and let that start to work. Once the first 2 minutes are up, we really need to check the eyebrow quickly. We want to see how the product has begun to work on the hairs and see how much longer they need. So we're going to use a fine bristled brush to brush through them to check if they can be manipulated into the desired position, something like this bamboo denter brush. Now, after this, we're not going to leave the product on for more than 30 seconds at any time. This is because we have started to move the hair into an alkaline pH. We know that if we make the hair environment too alkaline, it will damage the cuticle. And step 2 will bring it back more neutral. So we only want to leave step 1 on as long as necessary. So if we can see a few more hairs that are still not taken to step 1, we'll pop the cling film back on and leave for no more than another 30 seconds before checking again. Now we're happy with the eyebrow, let's remove the product using a disposable lip wand. We're going to remove all the product with a dry disposable lip wand, and as you can see, as we're taking the product off, that the hair is actually lightened and become warmer. This is because the process and the chemical compositions in step 1 has removed the EU melanin and we have the pheomelanin left behind. Now this will be balanced as we apply step 2. So with a fresh lip wand, we're going to apply step 2 all over the eyebrow. A really nice thick layer to make sure we saturate the hair, and this is going to neutralize step 1. It's going to close the cuticle, and as it's got more alkaline in it, it's going to bring the hair back to a more neutral pH level, and you'll see the hair start to take its natural color again. We're going to leave step 2 for either the same amount of time as step 1 or 7 minutes. So if, for example, we left step 1 on for 10 minutes, we'll leave step 2 on for 7 minutes. If we left step 1 on for 3 minutes, we're going to leave step 2 on for 3 minutes. We're not going to exceed the time of step 1. So at this point, I'm just using my denter brush, a new one, to comb through the hair to make sure it's in the same position as we want it. And it's really important at this stage, as it's going to be really hard to move them into a brand new position after this has worked through. Now the 7 minutes is up, we're going to remove step 2 in the same method we removed step 1. Using a dry lip wand, we're going to remove the product in the direction that we want to keep the hair. The hair will still be able to be manipulated at this point, so be careful when doing it and correct using a brush if necessary before we apply the tint. As you can see, the hair has taken its more neutral colour. So at this point, you can either do any brow mapping or brow architecture, but with this client, we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply the tint. We're using a natural light brown Bronsun tint to create a really subtle skin stain and just a subtle hair colour enhancement. We're going to use the Michelangelo brush from Inlay to apply the Bronsun tint in really thin layers, ensuring that as we're putting it on, we're keeping the lines really crisp and neat. As this tint does leave a subtle skin stain, if you go outside of where you want that tint to be staining the skin or hairs, it's really important you clean it up very quickly using tint remover. Now, as you can see, I'm using the brush at an angle and I'm stamping it down and sweeping along the hairs to get a really nice coating that's thin and even. It's really important that we layer this thinly, and we can apply more layers for a darker, intenser colour, but do not apply thickly, as it will give a halo effect stain and will be uneven. Once you have coated the brow, leave it for about 8 minutes or until it's completely dry before either adding another layer for a denser colour or before removing completely. When we remove the tint, we remove it from the inside, so the head or the bulb of the brow, out towards the tail. We also apply it at the bulb of the brow last, and this is to give us that really gorgeous ombre effect. As you can see, the tint has already started to develop. So you can see it's gone from a translucent colour and it's starting to go darker. If you struggle to see where you're applying the tint, just leave it in the pot once mixed for a minute, no longer, and you'll see the colour will start to develop. Now, the developer plus the tint creates that pH level that's slightly more alkaline again. So we don't want to over process it, since we've just moved the hair into an alkaline, then to a neutral position and back to an alkaline position. So we want to really watch it carefully, and we want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on the tint, making sure it dries evenly and really beautifully throughout the brow. And as you can see, we're just tidying up any areas there to make sure we get that really beautiful, crisp, defined tail and fluffy head of brow. Now, a few minutes have passed. What we're going to do is brush some of the tint through the head or the bulb of the eyebrow. Again, we're just checking that we've got a nice sort of fluffy ombre brow at the beginning, and this is a really good technique. If you believe at this point it's starting to look done at the beginning, I would use a cotton pad or a cotton bud, either mildly damp or using some of the step 3 brow essence to remove that tint from the area. And you can also see I'm going over and adding another layer thinly across the areas that have already dried, where we want the colour to be a little denser. So let's go ahead and start removing some of the light brown tint from the beginning of the brow. Now, as you remember, we want this to have a really subtle effect. As you can see, there is a very subtle skin stain left behind there, which gives us a crisp, defined bottom line to the brow, And the way we've put that tint on has given a really fluffy ombre top to that top of the bulb there. So as you can see, I'm using a very slightly damp lip wand to remove that and to continue stroking the hairs into the position we want them to lay. And it's really important to keep doing that. Okay, so we fast forward now to nearly the end of 9 minutes that the tint has been on the body of the brow for. So we're going to continue to remove it. So the colour will be denser through the middle of the arch and the tail of the brow, which is the desired look that we're going for here. So as you can see, I'm carefully and methodically removing it using a mildly damp or slightly damp lip wand. And the colour that we're getting left behind there, and as I'm going in to remove more, I'm just using a cotton pad. You can see she's smiling already with the results that she is getting. She's got a mirror in front of her. Lovely. So as you can see, the colour is more intense, but still really natural through that body of the brow, and that's because we've gone for that nice light brown colour, and you can see the more definition at the bottom of the eyebrow. Now to finish the brows, my favourite steps, once you can see the beautiful effect of the Bronsun tint in light brown, we're going to apply the step 3 of the Mayamy brow lamination system, which is the brow essence. This gives the brow hairs a really nice glossy finish. It is full of nutrients and nourishing ingredients. So it's really good, and it's important that we re-nourish and replenish the brows after doing these treatments. It will also continue to help bring the brow environment and the brow hairs back to a neutral pH and close the cuticles up, so we have healthy eyebrows, which is really important. Now I'm just going to take my time at this point to make sure that the brow has been combed through and is in the perfect position that we want before showing it to the client. Once I finish this, the next step you may want to go on to, if it's not already been done, is the hair removal. But for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to move straight onto the finishing, as this client's eyebrows have already been shaped. To finish the brows, I'm going to use Buff Brows Brow Palette to add a very fine line, as you can see there, of highlighter underneath the brow. And I'm going to use this brush with the angled bit to apply it, and then I'm going to buff it out. And this just helps create that really sharp bit, that sharp line underneath the brow, really clean line, and just accentuates the brow arch there. Always make the client aware that you've done this, just when you show them in the mirror. It's a really nice finishing touch to the treatment. And there you go, voila, beautifully laminated eyebrows and tinted with Bronsun tint in light brown.